Hello everyone, this is a new story on Hawk Fan channel.
It happened back in 1998. I was an ordinary teenager. I was in the 9th grade. On weekdays I tried to devote as much time as possible to study, and on weekends I was buzzing with friends to the fullest. Fortunately, the work schedule of my parents allowed me to do this quite often. On such days, friends safely gathered at his apartment and watched various horror films about war, love, and so on through the video. But then the moment came when they reviewed all the cassettes that were available, and they had to buy a new one. They agreed to chip in on the cassette as much as possible. Actually, this is where the story begins. The next day, I decided to skip school and go to see the new movies. To my great disappointment, the store in which they were sold was closed. I, with longing in my heart, wandered along the pavement, hoping to be in time for the third lesson. Having walked a couple of 100 meters at a fast pace, I slowed down, as I saw something in the distance in front of me, and this something caught my attention. I noticed a kiosk that I had never seen in the area before. I came closer to him and my gaze appeared a mobile trailer kiosk, and lo and behold, there were cassettes in it. Yeah, after all, there is justice on earth. Flashed through my head. I began to look into the windows with reverse tint, the available goods, but to my disappointment the choice was nowhere poorer, or rather it was not there, it was not at all. Only 7 cassettes, standing in a row and having nothing remarkable, except for pirated packaging. I thought for a long time whether it was worth the risk and buy any of these cassettes, but in the end I made my choice. I knocked on the window of the kiosk waiting for an answer, but there was no answer. Then I knocked again. On the other side, a rough male voice rang out, "What do you want?" "I would like to buy a cassette from you," I replied. "What cassette?" I heard a note of sarcasm in his rough voice. "Are you kidding me?" I thought. I didn't see his face, but for some reason at that moment I saw the image of a fat, pimply and clumsy fool. I was about to leave, but curiosity got the better of my mind. "You have 7 cassettes in a row on your shelf." I wanted to finish this dialogue as soon as possible. "Rubles," a voice said without laughing. I silently stretched out my hand with the money in the window, and what was my surprise when all 7 cassettes were in my hands. I walked home with a contented look. Then I did not even know why on that ill-fated day I gave 25 rubles. On the way home, I thought about what might be on these tapes, some cheap trash with a black man in the lead role, or some movie that failed at the box office, or maybe homemade porn. Or what am I? After 10 minutes I was standing on the doorstep of my apartment with a bag full of cassettes. Jumping into the corridor, I took off my sneakers and flew like a bullet into the room where the Viva was. Dumping the cassettes on the floor, I started looking through the contents of the packages. It turned out that all the cassettes were numbered and titled Day 1, Day 2, etc., everything except the last cassette. There were no notes on it. I took a cassette called Day 1 and inserted it into the tape recorder. Cassette sharp 1. I turned on the TV and began to watch what was happening. A simple 12-sheet school notebook appeared on the screen. On the notebook, the student's name was written in clear handwriting, Alexei, grade -8, B and school number 3. Then the notebook disappeared from the screen and a recording of shooting by an amateur camera appeared. First, the city in which the shooting is taking place, the surroundings of the city, etc. were shown. I did not recognize the city. It was winter on the tape, it was evening outside. iOS 5.6 per skid. The camera made characteristic movements up and down, as is usually the case when a person takes pictures while walking. Suddenly, she turned somewhere in the bushes and stopped. The impression was that now the shooting is being carried out in the park. The camera focused on the playground, where several school-age children were playing. The children slowly dispersed, and the camera did not take their eyes off them. Until the last child left the playground. I wanted to cut out this dregs, but then the camera began to move. She began to follow the last child on the heels. And with each step the camera came closer and closer. Here she is already behind him. You can see a man's hand reaching out to the child's back. Suddenly the recording was interrupted. The next frame horrified me. I wanted to turn off the recording, burn the tapes, forget about what I saw. But I didn't. The next shot was the same child. I recognized him by his jacket, lying in the snow with his throat cut. The recording does not end there. The next shot shows the same child, but now he is already sitting at the table and doing his homework. He smiles at the camera, waves his hand, then gets up and happily walks to the camera. His eyes shine with happiness. The recording was interrupted once again. Then the camera again shows the child sitting at a different table, in a completely different place, but now he is not doing his homework. He is dead. Blood oozes from his throat, and his numb face is directed towards the camera. A rough male voice is heard off screen. This is what happens to those who walk in the park for a long time and do not listen to their parents. Say hello to your dad, who out of drunkenness gave me a tape with you in the lead role. This concludes the first cassette. Oh God, how awful it was, I vomited. I wanted to believe that it was editing, staging, whatever, but not the truth. The first thought that came to my mind was to contact the police. They must find this bastard, they must. And then I remembered the painfully familiar voice on the tape. I put the cassette in again, rewound it completely, listened again. Exactly. This is the voice from the trailer kiosk. I was seized by a panic fear. Oh my God. I did not know what to do. I was afraid for my life. After all, if the tape is true, then I signed myself a death warrant. 25 rubles. Yes, that's how much my life is now worth. Think. Show it to anyone. Is it worth it? What if the person to whom I show will blabber? Then I'm finished. Perhaps the bastard is already watching me. He saw my face. Damn. I decided not to do anything. I hid the cassettes at home in a safe place, where I used to hide cigarettes. Listen to the continuation of this story on the Hawk Fan channel.